Respect the Boxing here with another video. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Also hit the bell notification that way you stay up to date on the latest content as I add it to the channel. All right, man, post-fight reaction, man. Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence Jr. It went down last night, man. It was a great fight. I love everything I seen. Let me talk about one thing before I jump into that, man. The Fundura kid. He used to fight at 147. He moved up to 154. Last night was the best performance I ever seen him, the sharpest I ever seen him. And it didn't matter the opponent. I'm talking about him, his body language, and the way he moved around. That was the sharpest I ever seen Fundura. Sebastian Fundura, keep that on your radar. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with that size. If he can continue to get better, he's only 22 years old. And I've seen him fight, and by far, that is the best performance I ever seen him have. And I'm talking about body language, the way he looked last night. He looked great. And I've seen a lot of people tweeting about it and talking about it. It was for good reason. That guy looked sharp and ready. Now, let's fast forward. Let's get back to Danny Garcia and Errol Spence Jr. They had a great performance, fight last night. And it was the old Errol Spence. And I'm talking about old Errol Spence. I'm talking about this was the same Errol Spence that showed up in the Chris Algieri fight. This was not the same Errol Spence that was fighting versus say Sean Porter last year or Mikey Garcia. That's not the Errol Spence that we got. We got a tip-top performing Errol Spence. I actually said, I tweeted this out when it happened. Errol Spence looked small in the ring last night. And the reason he looked so small because he was so muscular and he was so fit. He was sharp as fuck. That was the fastest I've probably seen Errol. And I mean that. I mean, like, that was the fastest. Errol is not he's not Zab Judah fast. But his reflexes and quick twitch muscles, kind of like, you know what I mean, shooting those punches, shooting that jab out, doubling and tripling up on the jab. Man, that's the best, like, speed-wise I've ever seen Errol Spence, by far. And he just looks so sharp and so laser-focused. Nobody beats that Errol Spence that was in that ring tonight. Nobody beats that Errol. Not like nobody in the welterweight division now. Nobody coming up to the welterweight division. You gonna have to neutralize that motion and movement. Did you see the way that he was cutting off the ring and stalking Danny? Like, at some point, I felt bad for Danny. It's like he couldn't do nothing. And I know the frustration was coming out for Angel because Angel wanted him to do certain things, but it's impossible when somebody is negating your motion and your movement. You want to do this stuff. You, in your mind, you told yourself this is what you was gonna do. But when somebody's catching and they're shooting and then you have to deal with their offense, it's a whole different story than just coming up with a game plan. You have to deal with what they're bringing to you. And he was stalking him. He was always in a pocket. He was always in shooting distance to be able to hit Danny. Danny was moving, trying to get out of the way, but you see Earl take the sidestep right there in front of him. Move to the right. He sidestepped. He was still in front of him. Turn. He turned too. You know what I mean? It's like a dance. And Errol Spence was following, and Danny was the leader. But Errol Spence was following, and then he would counter off of that, and he would shoot off of that, and he was first. He was first all night. And we talk about that in boxing a lot. Be first. Being first meaning like you getting your action off. Then you make the other person have to react. Where that timing that Danny needed to catch up to be able to shoot that no look left hook that he ducks his head down and shoots a lot. I only seen him shoot it maybe twice. You may can correct me, but notably, I've only seen him shoot it twice last night. It wasn't there. And it's because he had to deal with the jab. He had to deal with the output and everything that Earl was bringing to the ring. Earl had a masterclass performance. I thought he was going to knock him out. He said he got tired. I don't know what that was all about. You know, he looked in the greatest shape I've ever seen him. You know what I mean? And maybe it's the ring rust or whatever you can call it. But he trains hard, so I didn't think he should have been getting tired. You know, that's something to look forward to in the future, to see how he does in future fights and how he looks down the stretch. If he's gonna gas again, because he can't gas against going up in level. You can't gas against Terrence Crawford. I don't think he can gas against Terrence Crawford. So that is a notable something to take note of. But the Errol Spence that I seen for the first probably about 8 rounds last night, nobody can deal with him. And I'm telling you, nobody's gonna be winning rounds like that versus him. He was too sharp. And his offense was leading to his defense. He was catching everything for the most part. He left his body open a little bit. Danny got a couple of body shots in, and that's what I seen. But outside of those body shots, let's be honest. You know what I mean? Danny had a lot to deal with last night, and he wasn't going to overcome that. Errol Spence is the truth. He did what he was supposed to do. What's next for Errol? Like, I seen Terrence Crawford at the fight, but I don't think that's the next fight. What's next for Errol? He's talking about summer. He's talking about summer and next year. That's a long way away for us to wait for one of these big fights from Errol. No, we want to see him again. We want to see him again soon, and we want to see him against top competition. You know, I don't want to see him against, no low competition. Do you think Keith Thurman is on the radar for Errol now? Is he reevaluating what he's going to do next? If he can't get the Manny Pacquiao fight, if him and Terrence Crawford don't really line up, what is next for Errol? He can do whatever he wants to. He's the king of the welterweight division, and he's the cash cow of the welterweight division. Soon, probably to be, the cash cow of the world. He keep on building his stock. He get a Manny Pacquiao fight, man. That fight's gonna do numbers. If he actually lands a Canelo fight, that's gonna blow the fucking roof off of shit. You know what I mean? The sky's the limit for this guy right now. Money-wise, earning-wise. Nah, you know what I mean? Whether he wins all these fights, you know what I mean? It's still a gauntlet test. And coming off the accident, I still have some reserves of how is he long term? How does he hold up? He say he got gas. Is that effective? Maybe his stamina just can't get to where it used to be. We don't know. You know what I mean? You still have questions, but most questions. Can he take a punch? That motherfucker took some big punches last night. Danny caught him with an uppercut early. And I was like, ooh. Danny caught him with a clean uppercut early, and he just ate it. He ate that fucking uppercut. Danny caught him with some big right hands throughout the fight. Maybe 3 or 4 I can remember throughout the fight. Big right hands. Landed flush. Earl shook him off. Caught him with that shot that he hit him after the bell when kind of like that Lardy shot that rocked Earl and had him woozy in the corner during that Lardy fight years ago. Kind of the same way. Hit him right there as the bell was ringing. Or maybe Danny case a little after the bell was ringing. Earl shrugged off his chin. He's like, I took that. It's nothing. That was early in the fight. I think it was 2nd round, I believe. That man, he fought a masterclass performance. And I don't see anybody stepping up in the welterweight division beating this guy right now. Right now, he is the upper echelon of the welterweight division, and for a good reason. Like Danny said, he fought Keith Thurman, he fought Sean Porter. Danny said this in a post-fight. None of those guys was as strong as Earl. He's just brutally strong and physically, and that jab was very. That's what Danny put the fight on. He said I couldn't get past his jab, and he was doubling and tripling up on that jab, and he kept it busy. And then he got out of range, and he got back in the range, and then he was stalking him. Then he was cutting off the ring. Danny had nowhere. This guy has too many tools. He has too many tools that you have to deal with his offense in order to get your offense off. Everybody's gonna have problems like that, man. But that's all I got for you, man. Dre Spector, that's what I thought about, what I took from the fight. Errol Spence is back. He's just as great as he was before. I still have them deep thoughts in the back of my mind of what if, and maybe Danny couldn't, maybe Danny couldn't get off as good as maybe a Terrence Crawford would. But that's neither here nor there. You can take nothing away from that performance last night. He stood. All the checks that you need to check off to see if he was okay. You could check all those boxes. He ate any shots that he needed to. His defense was superb all night. Period. His offense was superb, as sharp as I've ever seen it. I'm telling you, as sharp as I've ever seen it. So you know what I mean. I don't think there's nothing left to prove post car accident. Now it's everything to prove of the legacy of Errol Spence. How great is he? We need to see him versus the top competition. Everybody in the top of those divisions. I want to see him versus anyone that's a big name, and then get that undisputed at 147 that he says he wants so much. That's Dre's perspective. That's all I got. Let me know what y'all thought about the fight. How dominant did you think Errol Spence was, or did you think Danny kind of folded? He couldn't do anything. Just let me know what you think about the fight. This is Dre's perspective, and I'm out.